This is Melissa Watson Ward with Shattering Ceilings. I'm so happy to have y'all with us today as I talk to Representative Annie McDaniels from House District 41. Rep. McDaniels has been serving now for how many terms, Rep. McDaniels? This is
Three,
your
three. Yes.
third term, and she'll be entering into leadership next year as she becomes the new chair of the Black Legislative Caucus. So very excited to have her here today, especially, post primary, where we have seen so many women either not run for reelection or they were unfortunately defeated in their primary campaigns. Can you share a little bit about what your experience has been serving as one of the few women in the state house, and why does it matter that you're one of the few women?
I think it matters most definitely because you want to have diversity. You want to have everyone's position, experiences, exposures. You want to have all these different things taken into consideration. South Carolina is a state made up of various different cultures, various different races, just different people. So serving in the state house where we're making laws that impact the lives of people from all different categories of life, then we should have that same kind of representation, and in particular women. And also particularly because there's been a lot of legislation talked about. There's been a lot about women's rights, control, want to tell women what to do with their reproductive systems, want to tell doctors what they can and cannot do when it comes to saving their patients' lives. So it's important to have women. But what I think happened in the House, Melissa, is that the women were so scared. They were
Mm-hmm.
afraid to support the desires of women, and they
Mm-hmm.
voted against their own interests. And I think after we saw what happened in the Senate, where we've lost those three females who said, okay, enough is enough. We allowed you to put your abortion ban on, but when you get to the point where you want to say 6 weeks, but most women do not know that they're pregnant, 6 weeks, and you want to tell doctors if you abort for any reason, then you could be penalized and punished by going to jail. That is crazy.
Yep.
But as it relates to me serving as one of the few females in the General Assembly, it is definitely daunting. Um, a lot of decisions are made, by these men. We try to talk to them. We try to share with them the position of women. You never live the life of a woman. A woman takes care of the children, balance the households. They have so many different things that they're doing. So the last thing they need is a man who's not able to bear children to try to tell them what to do with their lives. And it's not just childbearing. When it comes to many other things in life, we need perspectives. We need diversity of various cultures, various nationalities of people, so we can make good laws that fairly and adequately impact what is going on in the state and the various people within the state of South Carolina.
Yes, I mean we definitely need diversity of thought. And what I like to say about women's issues is women's issues are family issues, and
Hmm.
family issues are community issues. So often people want to regulate women's issues to just reproductive
Hmm.
rights and childcare, but literally the issues that we are talking about that impact women.
Hmm.
I put in parentheses because it really does.
Hmm.
It impacts the family. It impacts
Hmm.
children, which in turns impacts the entire family, and it impacts our community. And, there are a lot of markers that South Carolina is behind on. We are
Yes,
we are we are last in the things that we should be higher up for, and we're
right,
first in the things that we don't want to be first for. And
exactly,
so by not having more women at the table, I fear that those issues won't be addressed.
absolutely. And even if they are addressed, they would not be adequately put in place to serve. Because these men, they're not going to vote for these things. They don't understand. They don't know. And we've already seen that. And we know in most cases, women are the head of the household. In most cases, even when there's a man there, she's still the head of the household.
Yeah, women are some of our primary earners
Hmm.
um, in South Carolina, and not making the money for it though,
Exactly.
which again impacts our families and our quality of life in
Hmm.
the state. So, and I say that as someone, I wrote an article about needing more women in office, and I said some people would say, well, I should move if I don't like South Carolina, and I say I love South Carolina.
Exactly.
There's so much I love about the state, but when you love something, you want to see it do well,
You
and
want to
South
see it
Carolina is
do
not
well.
doing well.
That's right. That's right. And I often hear that too. Well, just move, just move. Well, why don't
Mhm.
you move? So I'm
Mhm.
here. This is my home. I'm going to be here, and I'm going to fight for those things that make South Carolina better and make the lives of people where all this negative legislation is impacting them to make their lives better. No, I'm not leaving. So those
Mhm.
people who feel that way, you leave.
Right, right. So speaking of you running, what has been your experience running for office? I mean, how is it, running here in South Carolina as one of the few women on the ballot and realizing that it is an uphill battle because, we're like I said, we're losing women. So and we were already only about 16% of the legislature. So when we're 51, y'all, 51% of the population is
Yes.
represented by 16% of the legislature. So, how has it been your experience on the campaign trail running?
Yes, on the campaign trail in Fairfield, it's not been that bad. In Chester, it has not been that bad, and I'm getting to know the new portion that I now have in Blackwood for Richland County. It hasn't been that bad, but just the overall, not myself, but just in some of the other offices, I've seen where it is once again daunting, but not as bad as it is at the State House because most of the people in my district they know the work I do, they know how hard I work, so they respect the fact of me being a female. But when it comes to seeing some of my colleagues within other elected positions in Fairfield County, I've seen where it can be um, hard for them because they are
Mhm.
trying to get there. They're trying to get that position so they can be able to show their positive impact within District 41. Two prime examples: we had two females running for clerk of court. And I guess now I'm leaning more towards African American than I am to women, but it still can be the same thing. Both of their seats were challenged, and both of them was going to be both of them well currently are because they still in. They're the first African Americans to hold those seats in
Yes.
the year 2024. They're the first to be elected to clerk of court in Fairfield County, first African American in Chester, and they were challenged. It got really nasty. Race got involved in Fairfield County, and in Chester, the young lady was challenged because they said she wasn't qualified because registered deeds is under clerk of court. Well, I told her when you get ready to go to before the Democratic Party, you make sure they understand you were not running for registered deeds. You were running for clerk of court, and you are qualified to run for clerk of court. So she did, and she went and she prevailed. So it hadn't gotten challenged beyond that point yet. But when it comes to race, when it comes to gender, when it comes to other different nationalities, when it comes to socioeconomic status, all of these things are things that hold South Carolina back. And we need people who understand all those different genres so that we can work for those people because I consider myself sometimes the voice for the voiceless. And a lot of those categories do not have someone who's willing to stand and speak for them and sacrifice sometimes things for themselves, but for others. I consider myself as being elected to serve the people. And that's what I want to do. But back to your original question, just in Fairfield, being a female amongst men hadn't been so bad for Chester nor Richland County. My biggest obstacles when it comes to being a female is in the General Assembly itself, when it's so male dominated and actually white male dominated.
Well, Rep McDaniel, you're also not one that's going to let them get you and bully you and stuff like that. I mean, you are outspoken in a very strategic way, and you have been an excellent. Even though you don't represent my district, I feel like you have been an excellent representative for your district. You have really been out there in the community, listening to the community. So thank you for that. And I'm glad you brought up the local elections because y'all, the presidency is sexy. Who's
Mm-hmm,
running for governor is exciting. With
mm-hmm.
speculation already for 2026. Even the state house, everybody wants to run for the state house. But y'all, these local elections matter just
Yes.
as much. And the fact that it is harder, not impossible, but harder to get Dems in the state house, we need to make sure that we are flooding our local elections
Mm-hmm.
because there are a lot of decisions that are made at that level that we can slow down some of the impact of what is happening from the other side of the aisle. We can slow that down with the right people in local office. So
Absolutely.
speaking of also leadership, I wanted to ask you briefly, what is your plans taking chairship as a chairwoman next year for the Black Caucus?
Yes.
What's your focus?
Oh, okay. Thank you for that question because I like to talk about that. I'm going to start in August, get my platform ready. And Melissa, I know, and I've been watching my 6 years in the General Assembly and definitely with the Legislative Black Caucus, and whether or not we're making a visible difference in things that we're doing, whether or not we're being impactful, whether or not we have a checklist where we can check out various things that we've accomplished. So my plan is to communicate and have conversation with the various organizations throughout the state that share the same ideals that we share within the Black Caucus. And that would be like Emerge, ACLU, NAACP, the Baptist denomination, the AME denomination, even some of the corporations within the state, the Manufacturers Association, the housing, all these different areas, and have that conversation. Say, what one thing can you do that you think can be impactful for the least of these in the state, but benefit the entire state, and not to give them a handout, but to give them an opportunity to be lifted up and out of their situations. You know, everyone who's in a bad situation or circumstance is not there because they want to be there. There's certain things that have happened that have prevented them. And if we don't give them a path out, they resort back to what got them in that situation. And we want to be able to see that change. So I'm going to be meeting with these organizations, asking them to take just one thing on the checklist, just one thing, and then report back to us. Let us know what we can do as the Black Caucus, what we can do as the General Assembly to make that particular item that they've chosen to accept possible, so that we can go down the list and say, okay, we accomplished this, we accomplished that. Okay, we didn't get this. However, if we tweak it a little bit, we're going to try this time. And the state agencies. State agencies are there for the entire state, not just the legislators, not just the administration, executive committee. And we need to be holding them accountable to doing in the communities those things that they need to be doing. So we'll be pairing them with those state agencies that can help them with their particular item on the checklist. We're going to be doing tours so folk can know who we are, know why we exist. Make sure they understand that the Black Caucus is not about fostering any kind of divide between the races, but addressing those things that are prevalent amongst Blacks. Because we know a lot of things Black people get accused of that are holding the state back. Well, you know what? Let's work on them then. Let's work on them. Let's quit talking about it. Let's quit blaming them. Let's quit doing a whole lot of surveys that keep telling us the same thing over and over and over. Let's move from survey to action. And then
Ooh,
let's evaluate. And then
I
let's
love that.
reassess. So that's my plan.
I love that. I love that. And we definitely want to have you back on when it gets closer to the legislative season
Okay.
session to hear more about your plan. And I will say I've heard that, and I've heard the saying that if when Black women do well, the country does well,
The
because
country does well.
we have fallen, or we are at the bottom of so many significant lists as far as like well-being. So if we can target Black women and increase their quality of life, increases the quality of life. It was like rising tide rises, for all. So my last question is there anything that you want our listeners to know about supporting women candidates this year? Anything that they can do, or just the importance of voting for women candidates in November?
Yes, I want the listeners to know that we need you to vote. A 25% turnout in this last primary election was sad. And what it means, or what it says, is that candidates can just cater to their little small base and leave everyone else behind. So can you imagine a candidate succumbing to 25% of their voting population and leaving the other 75% out? That's part of why we are where we are now, with all the crazy legislation that we have going on that deals more with morality than dealing with what can happen to make the state better. So please, you all, women are more detailed. Women will get it done. You know, they say besides every good man, there's a good woman. Well, beside everything that happens in life, there's a good woman. So please, you all, let's go out. Let's vote for these women. Let's get these women elected. And I'm sure, I promise you, if you elect them, you'll be able to contact them. If you can't, let me know. And I'll contact them and say, look, you got to be responsive to your voters. You got to be responsive to your constituents. So y'all, please trust me and let's get these women in here. That gap is so wide now that no matter how we fight for women issues, we may not be able to get women issues on the forefront and get legislation in place. But one good thing, Melissa, I will give us credit for, we did get the tax exemption on feminine products passed this year. So that's one plus for women. But y'all, it can be a lot more if we get more women in the state house. So
Yes. And
please, you all,
don't just vote for them because they're women. Vote for them because they're qualified. And there are some very
qualified.
qualified women on the
Yes,
ballot. So
yes,
donate to their campaigns, volunteer on their campaigns, and vote for them.
yes,
Thank you, Rep. McDaniel. I so appreciate you. You know, I appreciate you in all things in life.
yes,
So thank you so much for taking time today. And y'all, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast and the rest of the podcast and
yes.
content on the Arena SC, as we are the state's only progressive media outlet, and we are bringing the news directly to you. So thank you.
Thank you. And donate to Women Campaign. We don't like to ask for money, so please donate.
Yes.